Have you ever felt like giving up on something? Like you're sitting in the middle of a situation, you don't know if you should stay, you should leave. Most people spend their entire lives struggling with this one question that just keeps ringing in their mind. It keeps them up at night. They think about it in the shower. They're sitting at work. They can't get out of their mind. Hits them when they're driving home. And that question is this: should I quit or should I keep going? But before I get too deep into that, I want you to stay all the way to the end because I'm going to give you free access to a free challenge that's going to change the trajectory of your life and how you think about all of this. But right now, this is the truth. You're not asking about quitting. You're asking about purpose. You're asking, is this still my assignment? Is God still in this? Is this season serving my destiny? Or am I staying here out of faith or fear? That's the real tension. And today I'm going to break the myth of that saying, winners never quit and quitters never win. Because that statement alone has kept more people stuck, bound, frustrated, and out of alignment almost more than anything. And today we're going to learn the kingdom truth that winners do quit. They just end up quitting the right things. I know you heard that quote before. Winners never quit, quitters never win. It sounds great. Should be on a t-shirt, maybe on the wall at the gym, post on Instagram for some motivation, get a bunch of likes, whatever it is. But let me tell you something. It's one of the most destructive lies people live by. I was one of those people a few years ago. I lived by it. I feel like I was unstoppable until my comfort zone got stripped away because I didn't actually know, the truth about it because nobody ever wanted to talk about it. The truth is that winners quit all the time. They do. They quit all the time. But the key is that, you have to understand, not to be confused, first of all, about this quitting thing, because winners quit the wrong things, meaning that the things that God never gave them, didn't put them in their lives, didn't guide them to, they quit those things. While quitters quit on the right things that God has put in their lives, stuff that God has assigned them to, that's when they quit. See, winners quit, disobedience, while quitters quit being obedient. And vice versa. Everything's back and forth. It's a this or a that. Winners quit distraction, quitters quit on their destiny. Winners quit what God didn't plant there, and quitters quit what God expects them to harvest. But the issue isn't quitting. The issue is, what are you quitting? Let me break it down for you a little bit more. Winners will quit the wrong job without hesitation, like that. They're up and they'll leave. They'll go do whatever God is calling them to do, or whatever they feel they're being called to do. They'll quit hanging around the wrong crowd when God shows them that's not His will, and they'll quit that wrong assignment when the season shifts. They'll quit being their old self when God called them higher, aka being renewed in the mind. They will quit that wrong mindset when the revelation comes. And when God says move, they move. And a few years ago, I found myself being convicted about something. It was a habit that kept me comfortable, helped me sleep at night, did it every day, but it was killing my capacity. And when God revealed it to me, I dropped it instantly because it didn't serve my calling. But someone operating with a losing mentality, and when I say losing, I don't mean that the person's worthless. I mean that they accept defeat to their circumstance. Life is like a sport. We have winners and we have losers. And if you finish second, you are the first loser. There are no runner-ups in life. A loser quits thinking that they can't do life without a substance. They quit dreaming of their sober life. They quit the assignment for God gave them when it was hard. Whenever stuff got hard, they said, you know what, this is not for me. They quit the path that God has already ordained for them. You have to understand that, yes, we have to pray for everything. But guess what? God's already ordained stuff ahead of you. And if you take yourself off that trajectory, then you're not going to receive the blessing that God has for you because you quit on the wrong thing that God put there. People end up quitting on just developing themselves and their character because God's going to require discipline that feels difficult. And they quit doing what God honors when they don't see immediate results. They refuse to adopt that delayed gratification. So the question you need to stop asking is, should I quit? That's the wrong question. The real question is, the kingdom question is, what should I quit? But listen to me carefully. Winners quit what God didn't assign. And the loser, like I said, is going to quit what God did assign to them. Let that sink in for a second. Winners quit what God didn't assign to them, and losers quit what God did assign. I know some of you are thinking, but Carlos, aren't you a Christian? Doesn't the Bible say to persevere? Doesn't it say to endure? And it does. But the Bible is also full of winners who did quit. I need you to see this pattern. Look at Abraham, Moses, the disciples, Apostle Paul, and the children of Israel themselves. They all quit something. Abraham, the father of faith, he quit his father's house. Genesis 12 tells him that God told him to leave your country, your people, and your father's household. That's quitting. Abraham quit everything that was familiar to follow God's assignment. Moses, he quit the entire Egyptian system. Exodus chapter 2 and 3 shows us that he walked away from all his privileges, all his position, his palace life. He quit being a prince to become a deliverer. He spent years in the wilderness before he even came to deliver them. And the disciples, Matthew 4 shows us a professional fisherman. They quit fishing. They weren't unemployed guys that had nothing to lose. They were business owners. They had boats. They had nets. They had to do this to make the money to pay their taxes, take care of their family. And they quit all of that when Jesus said, follow me. And look at Apostle Paul. He quit persecuting the church. Acts 9 shows a complete identity shift. He didn't just change jobs. He quit his entire identity as Saul and became Paul. And if you look at just Israel as a whole, they had a whole generation. They had to delete a mindset. They had to quit being who they were. Deuteronomy 1:6 says, you have stayed long enough at this mountain. God literally told them to quit camping and start conquering. So let me be very crystal clear with you. Quitting isn't rebellion. Sometimes quitting is obedience. But there's a deeper question behind quitting. And this is where it gets spiritual. This is where you feel the divine presence. And the question is, who are you serving? Are you serving God or yourself? Because when you serve yourself, your emotions become your GPS. And you quit when you feel tired. And you stay where you feel comfortable. And you move when you feel excited. Your feelings become your compass. And that's very dangerous. But when you serve God, when you truly serve God, His Spirit directs you. Not your emotions, not your comfort, not your preference. It's His Spirit. Proverbs 3:6, it says it like this, in all of your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your paths. That says in all of your ways, not just Sunday, not just when it's convenient, all of your ways. But you have to understand, you cannot, and I repeat, you cannot follow the call of God and follow your comfort at the same time. They're going in opposite directions at all times. Matthew 6:24 makes it plain. He says you cannot serve God and mammon. You cannot serve two masters, for you'll love one and hate the other, be devoted to one and despise the other. If you started something in your emotions, if you launched a business because you were mad at your boss, or you jumped into a friendship because you made them an idol in your life, you thought they were this and they were that. If you made that commitment because you felt pressured, you started emotion, it's going to end with frustration. That's a guarantee. That is a fact, Jack. I've been there. I know what that's like. But if you do it the right way, where God starts it, if God initiated it, God initiated what I'm doing right now. I never in my life thought that this would be me. I never in my life thought I'd be talking on YouTube to people I don't know about God, somebody that changed my life just literally years ago. I didn't grow up in a church. I never believed it. But guess what? You won't be able to quit the thing that God's called you to do, even if you tried. You'll want to quit at times. You'll plan to, exit at times. You'll announce to people, hey, I'm done doing this, I'm doing that. But something inside of you will not let you walk away from what God has ordained. And before I go deeper, I need to make this crystal clear with you, because I do not want you to be confused. When I say that winners quit, I'm not talking about quitting your God-given assignments, because winners do not quit being obedient. They don't quit discipline. They don't quit character. Winners don't quit their calling. Winners quit the things that block their submission to God. Winners quit the wrong past, the wrong seasons, the wrong motives, the wrong identity, the wrong relationships, and the wrong assignments. Winners quit what do not serve God. And they fully understand what does serve God. Now, that distinction made, let me show you the difference between quitting and submission, because some people get this confused. They look very similar on the outside, but they're completely different on the inside. See, quitting, like I said, that's emotional. There comes frustration, exhaustion, disappointment, or fear. Quitting says, I'm tired of this. I'm done. I want out. Submission is directional. It comes from hearing God's voice and obeying His leading. Submission says, Lord, if this season is done, if it's done, lead me into the next one. Where quitting shuts a chapter with anger, submission opens a chapter in faith. James 4:7 says, submit yourselves, therefore, to God. Not quit to God, but to submit to God. The biblical distinction here is this. Quitting is when you walk away from something God assigned you to do because it got hard. While submission is when you move forward from something He has never assigned to you now so you can go in His way and be complete. Quitting abandons what God told you to finish, and submission releases what God never told you to carry. Quitting will break your alignment. Submission is going to restore it. But hear me on this. God isn't telling you to quit winning. He's telling you to quit wondering. He's telling you that if you stop wondering in assignments He never gave you, He will show you what He's ordained for you. Now you can finally walk in the assignment that He has for you. But in order to walk in that assignment, there's one kingdom law you have to follow. It revolutionizes how you're going to see everything in your life. It's not chasing your capacity. If you do not chase your capacity, you will end up in captivity. I will say that again. If you're not chasing your capacity, if you're not pursuing the fullness of what God has put you in, you will end up in captivity. Because unused potential doesn't just disappear, it becomes a spiritual prison. And Matthew 25 tells us the parable of talents. Verse 15 says, to one He gave 5, to another, and to another one. And eventually He says, to each He gave according to his own ability. Did you catch that? According to his ability, not according to his comfort, not according to his presence, according to his ability. See, God gives you based on capacity, not comfort. He looks at what you can handle, not what you want to handle. Now, remember in that story of the servants, one guy buried his talent. He didn't do anything with it. He was like, I'm not losing this. No way. I'm not going to risk this one. And most people thought he was being lazy. The guy who gave him the talent ended up calling that guy a wicked and lazy servant. But if you read that text carefully, you'll see he didn't bury it because he was lazy. He buried it because he was afraid. Fear made him quit before he even got started. And that's what I'm trying to show you, that fear is captivity. Living below your capacity because you're scared, that's captivity. Disobedience disguised as humility, that's captivity. Unused capacity, that's worse than captivity of all, because you're imprisoned by your own potential. So let me paint a picture of what you think about freedom versus captivity. Think about it this way. The freest man in the world can still be the most captive. Think about that. A man with no home, no job, no responsibilities. He can walk anywhere he wants. He can sit anywhere he wants. He can sleep anywhere he wants. He doesn't have a mortgage or a rent tying him down to one location. No boss telling him what to do, where to show up. No calendar controlling his day. He has maximum mobility, right? But here's what he can't do. He can't eat where he wants to eat. He can't live where he chooses. He can't walk into the environment with confidence. And he can't access anything beyond basic survival. He has movement without purpose. He has freedom without access. He has mobility without meaning. And 2 Peter 19 says, they promise them liberty while themselves are slaves. They promise freedom but deliver bondage. Hear me on this. Mobility is not freedom. Being able to go anywhere but not having no purpose when you get there, that's not freedom. Purpose is freedom. Knowing why you're here, what you're called to do, who you're called to do it, that's freedom. Now, we are coming to an end in this message, but I want to help you identify if God is ending a season in your life. I'm going to give you 5 signs to know when it's time to quit and submit to God. And when these align, you have to pay attention. The first one is when you feel grace lift. Second Corinthians 12 and verse 9 talks about God's grace being sufficient. But when God's grace for a specific assignment lifts, everything's going to become exhausting. Work that used to be energized, now feels like it's draining you. Tasks that felt light now feel like 1,000 pounds of crushing weight. And when grace lifts, the assignment shifts. Sign number 2, when the fruit stops. Matthew 7:20 says, you'll know them by their fruits. When you're working harder than ever but producing less than before, something is off. When your increased effort yields decreased results, God might be redirecting your energy. And sign number 3, the lesson is complete. Deuteronomy 1:6 says, God says this. He says, you have stayed longest on this mountain. Some of you have been, think about it. You stayed longest on the mountain. So that means that some of you have been staying on a certain mountain for years. You've learned everything that mountain can teach you. and that lesson is now complete. Now it's time to move to the next mountain. And sometimes that might be getting uncomfortable, like Psalms 23, walking through the valley of shadow of death. But you're going to be at you're going to be at a table that He has prepared for you in the presence of your enemies at a higher mountain peak. Go on my last video. I did a whole sermon at a church on this. It was phenomenal. But sign number 4, staying feels like disobedience. Look at 1 Samuel 15 and 22. It tells us that obedience is better than sacrifice. When staying in your current situation feels like disobeying God, when your spirit is grieving by remaining where you are, you hate it here. That's not just discomfort. That's divine discontentment. And the final sign, the 5th sign, when God redirects your attention. Galatians 3:2 tells us to set our minds on things above. When your mind keeps drifting to the next assignment, when you can't stop thinking about what's next, what God is calling you to do, when your attention is consistently being pulled to try something new, God might be preparing you for a transition. And when these 5 signs align, you're not quitting, you're graduating. And there's a massive difference between dropping out and graduating. One's failure, one is completion. But in order to gain clarity in a season, you have to recognize that it does not come from confusion. You cannot think your way into clarity when you're spinning in circles. Clarity comes from alignment. And when you align with God's will, the path becomes clear. Psalms 37:23 says, "The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord." They're ordered, not suggested, not recommended, but ordered. And here's the catch. If you want God to order your steps, you have to be willing to take them. You cannot stay planted in fear and expect God to move you forward. It doesn't work. You can never do God's part, and He ain't going to do yours. You cannot remain disobedient and expect divine direction. You have to be willing to move when He says move, stay when He says stay, and quit when He says quit. And if you're in a season right now, maybe you're wrestling with direction, you're not sure if you should do this business, or maybe you don't know about your calling, or you're confused about your purpose, I created something for you. It's a free clarity guide and challenge to help you discern what God is shifting in your assignment. And you can download it in the description down below, or you can just go to carlosbolton.com/clarity. And if this message spoke to you, if it shifted something in your spirit, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, drop a comment. This isn't just motivational fluff. This is kingdom truth for kingdom builders. And remember that quitting is emotional. Submission is spiritual. And knowing the difference, that's what's going to set you free. So until next time, stay blessed by the best. I appreciate you watching and staying this long. If you did, grab that copy of that challenge. Go get in there. Go join it. Take advantage of it. And at the end of that challenge, I have something very special for you. But stay blessed by the best. I'll catch you guys next week.